Welcome back to the ultimate destination for tennis analysis, and today we are addressing a storyline that has not just captured the imagination of the tennis world, but has arguably broken the internet over the last 48 hours, creating a whirlwind of speculation, excitement, and confusion that stretches from the streets of Manila to the steppes of Kazakhstan and right into the heart of the Californian desert. If you have been scrolling through Twitter, Instagram, or Reddit lately, you have almost certainly seen the viral graphics and the breathless headlines claiming that the Filipino sensation Alexandra Eala has shocked the world by taking down the towering giant that is Elena Rybakina at the BNP Paribas Open. But before we get swept away by the digital tidal wave of hype and hysteria, we need to hit the pause button, take a deep collective breath, and ground ourselves in the absolute reality of the 2026 WTA calendar, because the truth is both simpler and significantly more exciting than the fiction. The reality is that the main draw for Indian Wells hasn't even hit the first ball yet, meaning the viral results you are seeing are premature celebrations of a match that hasn't happened. But, and this is a massive but, do not click away, because the verified schedule confirms that these two titans are indeed on a direct collision course that makes this the most anticipated early round matchup of the entire year. We are looking at a scenario where the immovable object meets the unstoppable force, and today we are going to dissect every single atom of this potential clash, exploring why the internet is so desperate for this match to happen, and what will actually occur when the first ball is struck. To understand the magnitude of this moment, we first have to acknowledge the context of the venue, because the BNP Paribas Open is not just another tournament, it is the fifth Grand Slam, a gladiator arena in the middle of the Coachella Valley, where the unique desert conditions create a unique tactical paradox that can break even the most seasoned champions. The air is dry and thin, allowing the ball to fly through the air with reduced drag, but the court surface itself, the gritty plexipave, is notoriously slow and abrasive, grabbing the ball upon impact and causing it to rear up high, creating a battlefield that demands a mix of raw power and extreme spin. Into this unique arena steps Alexandra Eala, a player who is transformed from a promising junior prodigy into a legitimate top-tier threat in what feels like the blink of an eye, and her journey to this specific moment in 2026 has been nothing short of cinematic. We have to talk about her recent performance at the Abu Dhabi Open because it wasn't just a tournament run, it was a statement of intent to the entire locker room. When Eala found herself down a set and trailing 0-4 in the deciding third set against a veteran like Alexandra Sosnovic, 99% of young players would have folded, packed their bags, and looked ahead to the next week. But Eala tapped into a reservoir of mental fortitude that you simply cannot teach, a never-say-die attitude that she herself described as playing with her heart and chest, fighting back point by grueling point to secure a victory that propelled her to a career-high ranking of world's number 31. This ranking is crucial because it means she is no longer an outsider looking in. She is a seeded threat, a player who has earned the right to stand on the biggest courts, and her game has evolved to match her ranking. Being a left-hander in tennis is statistically proven to be a massive advantage, particularly on the ad court serve, where she can slice the ball out wide, dragging opponents off the court to open up the entire down-the-line winner, and this lefty geometry is going to be the cornerstone of her strategy against Rybakina. Eala brings a heavy, whipping topspin forehand that is reminiscent of her training at the Rafa Nadal Academy, a shot that doesn't just penetrate the court, but kicks up aggressively, which is the perfect weapon for the high-bouncing conditions of Indian Wells. However, standing on the other side of the net is a player who represents the absolute pinnacle of modern power tennis, the reigning 2026 Australian Open champion, Elena Rybakina. If Eala is the fire, the passion, and the grit, Rybakina is the ice, the precision, and the execution. The Kazakhstani superstar is coming into this tournament not just as a contender, but as the standard-bearer for the WTA Tour, fresh off a dominant start to the season, where she has looked virtually untouchable. But it will also travel faster, aiding Rybakina's serve, whereas a night match would slow everything down, turning it into a physical war of attrition that heavily favors the grinder. Ultimately, this narrative is about more than just one match. It is about the global expansion of tennis, seeing a superstar from the Philippines rise to challenge a champion from Kazakhstan on American soil, highlighting how truly international and diverse the WTA Tour has become in 2026. Whether the match ends in a swift display of power by the world number 3 or a grueling 3-set upset by the rising number 31, the real winner is the sport of tennis, which thrives on these contrasting personalities and styles. So, while we wait for the official schedule to drop and the players to take the court, we can only speculate, analyze, and prepare for what promises to be a blockbuster encounter that will set the tone for the rest of the season. Now, I want to turn this over to you, the fans. Do you believe the hype? Do you think Alexandra Eala's lefty game and fighting spirit are enough to dismantle the Rybakina powerhouse in the desert conditions? Or will the 2026 Australian Open champion prove once again why she is the ruler of the hard courts? I want to see your score predictions, your tactical analysis, and your messages of support for your favorite player in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this comprehensive deep dive into the biggest story of the Indian Wells pre-tournament build-up, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you are the first to know when we break down the post-match results, because trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next in the California desert. But to simply look at the forehand and backhand exchange is to scratch only the surface of this monumental encounter, because we have to go deeper into the invisible war that happens before the players even step onto the court, which is the battle of the coaching boxes and the physiological preparation that defines modern tennis in 2026. You have to consider the pedigree that Alexandra Eala brings from the Rafa Nadal Academy, where the philosophy is not just about hitting the ball, but about suffering on the court and finding joy in that suffering, which is a concept that is alien to many modern players who look for the quick winner. Yet, for Eala, it is her bread and butter. Her coaching team has likely been studying Rybakina's heat maps from the Australian Open, and they know that while Rybakina is deadly from the center of the court, her efficiency drops significantly when she is forced to hit running forehands on the stretch, a weakness that aligns perfectly with Eala's left-handed cross-court pattern. On the flip side, Rybakina's team, which is one of the most data-driven camps on the tour, will be looking at Eala's second serve, which, despite her improvements in 2026, remains attackable if she falls into predictable patterns. They will be instructing Rybakina to stand 2 feet inside the baseline on anything short, effectively shrinking the court and suffocating the Filipino star before she can even begin to weave her tactical web. This brings us to the factor of the Indian Wells flu and the physical toll of the desert, because while we talk about the glamorous setting, the air in the Coachella Valley is incredibly dry, which dries out contact lenses, cracks lips, and accelerates dehydration, meaning that if this match goes the distance into a grueling third set, it stops being a tennis match and becomes a contest of who has hydrated better over the last 48 hours. Eala, being younger and coming from a tropical climate, often thrives in humid conditions, but the dry desert heat is a different beast entirely, whereas Rybakina has historically had issues with heat management in extended matches, which introduces a chaotic variable that no amount of ball striking talent can fully neutralize. We also have to discuss the shadow of expectations, because for the first time in her career, Eala is not just a cute story or a developing junior. She is a top 31 player, which comes with the burden of defending points and the pressure of knowing that the entire tennis world is suddenly analyzing her every move. In previous years, she could swing freely with zero consequences, but now a loss is a setback in her quest for the top 20, and how she manages this transition from hunter to established professional will be the defining psychological arc of this match. Conversely, Rybakina is playing for legacy. Having already secured Grand Slams, she is now chasing the world #1 ranking, and a loss to a player outside the top 10 in the early rounds of a WTA 1000 event is a mathematical disaster for her ranking points, which adds a layer of tension to her arm that Eala can exploit if she keeps the score close in the first set. Let's also zoom out and look at the historical parallel here, because this matchup feels eerily similar to the early clashes between Rafa Nadal and Roger Federer, where you had the lefty spin doctor challenging the pristine, flat-hitting perfectionist, and we all know how that rivalry shifted the paradigm of tennis towards heavy topspin and physicality. If Eala